Success leaves clues. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you want to change the trajectory of your life and career, you want to invest in yourself and find mentors and coaches who've achieved what you hope to achieve. And I've invested a lot in myself, working with mentors and coaches in personal development and in business, having the ability to work with multimillionaires and studying their craft and seeing what they're doing to get to the level that they have achieved. And I remember early on in my career, I was working with one internet entrepreneur, again, massively successful at building 6 and 7 figure businesses. And I remember my first year of working with him, and I'd gotten to that level where at the end of the year, my tax bill was actually more than I had been making as a doctor in previous years. And that was certainly a shock to the system. And so I went to him and I said, you know, you've had some tremendous years. How do you handle your taxes? And he says, to be honest, Mike, I don't really spend a lot of time on it. His thing was, I don't want to get an audit. So I basically send it to two CPA firms. And whichever one tells me the most amount I have to pay, I just end up paying that. And what it showed me is, tax advice, like anything, is just knowledge. And if you can have the knowledge or find the knowledge that allow you to pay taxes, where they have these specifications that allow you to pay your fair share, but actually take deductions and do it in a fair and ethical manner, why not take advantage of it? Because it's not about how much money you make, it's also about how much money that you can keep, right? So we all know that physicians love real estate as an investment. Many doctors come to me and talk about real estate. In fact, that topic is often one of our most downloaded topics here on the Bootstrap MD podcast. And most doctors go into real estate because they know about the tax advantages it can have. And if you're one of them, you may have heard of something called real estate professional status. And what that allows you to do is allow you to save a lot of taxes if you have that designation. The problem being, especially with physician real estate investors, is to have this real estate professional status, you have to document meticulously that you're performing in activities that are considered as a real estate professional. And because most real estate investors who are physicians do this on a passive form, they are limited by the amount of deductions that they can take on their tax return. And because there was really no simple solution out there that could track these hours, most didn't even bother having real estate professional status. But that's all going to change because my next guest created a solution that can help physician real estate investors accurately and simply document the amount of hours, allowing you to achieve real estate professional status, saving you tons of time and tons of money. And it's all done using a simple app on your phone. So if you're a real estate investor, this is mandatory listening. My interview is with Dr. Kirsten Limmer, the founder and creator of REPStracker, on this episode of Bootstrap MD. Hey guys, it's Dr. Mike Wu Ming. Welcome to another edition of Bootstrap MD. Well, I'm really excited on my next guest, and she really is an example of how, as entrepreneurs, we find problems. We are in front of problems that we know is hurting us either through time or money, and we come up with solutions to address these problems. And this doctor did exactly that. Her name is Dr. Kirsten Limmer. She is a pediatrician, completing her residency at Harvard Medical School, earned her medical degree at my alma mater, UCSD. She was at the UCSD School of Medicine. Actually has a PhD in molecular biology at UCSD as well. And as mentioned, she's board certified in general pediatrics, but probably even more important to you, especially if you're a real estate investor, and I know many of you are who are listening to this program, she has created a very cool app that can save you a lot of time and money. It's called REPStracker. She's going to talk all about it. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kirsten Limmer. Kirsten, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks, Mike. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I gave you this intro, we got the Harvard, we got the UC San Diego here, molecular biology. What kind of led you to creating this app known as Tracker?
Yeah. Well, okay, like you said, I'm a real estate investor. I've also always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Second grade, I started a business selling earrings that I made out of tiny little origami cranes and started a little side business inside of my second grade class. So always kind of looking for problems and solutions and trying to make innovations out of that. And, being a real estate investor over the last several years, I've kind of been more of a hobby investor, kind of dabbled in real estate. But over the last year or so, I've become a lot more systematic, a lot more serious about investing. And concurrently with the pandemic, I have three little kids who started homeschooling at home, like a lot of people. So I had to cut down my clinical time pretty significantly in order to be at home for them. So it's kind of a clash of two worlds. I was both more serious about real estate investing and I had cut down my clinical time. And what led me to start to go down the road of was something called real estate professional status, because I knew since I was not working as much in the hospital anymore and I was doing more real estate that I could potentially apply or become a real estate professional in the eyes of the IRS for tax purposes. Now, I'm going to give you a little high level overview of real estate professional status because it's not like becoming a real estate agent or anything. It's really just a tax designation. And so basically, normally as a real estate investor, when you have profits and losses from your real estate, those can only be used against each other. So that's considered passive income. And so to give you kind of a real world example, I have a house in Palm Springs that I use as a vacation rental. And I put on solar panels a few years ago upwards of $80,000 or something like that. So a really decent expense. But because those passive losses can only be claimed against other passive losses, I wasn't able to deduct the whole thing off of my taxes that year. So that's kind of a
Hmm.
stepwise deduction off of my taxes. Now, what real estate professional status does is it takes basically that bucket of passive profits and losses and combines it with active profits and losses. And that could be something like a W-2 or a 10 income. So for myself and my husband, who is also a physician, that's considered active income. And unless I can say that I'm a real estate professional, then that would be considered passive income. So now I'm putting both of those in the same bucket. And now any deductions or anything like that from our real estate investments, we can use against our W-2 income. And that becomes a really powerful tax reduction strategy when you have a lot of real estate, and especially as a dual physician couple. So what I found when I was going down this road, and I should kind of back up and say, the most important thing about claiming real estate professional status on your taxes is documentation. So I'll
Hmm.
back up even more on that and say, with any great power comes great responsibility. So the IRS is not just going to swallow that you're just a real estate professional and just here I am and that's it and give me a tax refund of $100,000, please. No. So there's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. And it's a little outside of the scope of this podcast, but essentially what you have to do is show that you have spent several hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, several hundreds of hours on your real estate throughout the year. And that has to happen every year. And not only do you have to have the time logs to prove it, but you also have to have the evidence. And so, for example, if you say that you spent half an hour with your tenant on the phone on March 21st, not only do you have to have that, but if you get audited, you better be able to bring up that call log and be able to show that you spent half an hour on the phone with your tenant. So, as you can imagine, these time logs really add up, and you have to be really on the ball to stay updated and keep you protected in the case of an IRS audit. And what I looked around and what I saw was that most investors were actually using Excel spreadsheets, Google Calendar, some with just like a pen and paper notepad type thing.
Wow.
and like, keeping a little shoebox full of their receipts or their pictures of all of their evidence. And to me, being, a little bit more on the OCD spectrum, I was like, wow, I can't do that. Like, first of all, I know that I need a system. If I'm going to be super meticulous and up to date about my hours, I need a system that is easy. I can do on the go. I don't have to wait to come home and like sit in front of the desktop. And because I just know I won't do it. If day after day with having such a busy life, I know that I won't be able to keep track of my hours that way. So I looked around for an app because, there's got to be an app for that, right? And couldn't find anything. So there's kind of generic time tracking apps, but none of them really fit the needs that I was looking for. So hence was born REPStracker.
Remember when you could practice medicine on your own terms? What if you could take control of your physician career, make more money while working smarter, not harder? Pick up your copy of The Positioned Physician. Earn more, work smart, and love medicine again. Now updated for 2021, The Positioned Physician details one doctor's journey from burnt-out employee to successful entrepreneur. Whether you are in residency, in mid-career, or close to retirement, after reading The Positioned Physician, you'll gain the knowledge that can strategically impact your doctor life. The Positioned Physician, now available on Amazon Kindle and paperback.
A lot to cover there. And then I'm curious to know, and probably you don't have the numbers on this, but it sounds like, real estate investors, they could save thousands of dollars, perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars, becoming a real estate professional, or having real estate professional status, but most of them don't do it. What's the reason for that?
Yeah. And I think that that's a good question. And I think that it's something that even I kind of took pause about. And that is the fact that it is an auditable thing to declare on your taxes. And, in the eyes of the IRS, you are guilty until proven innocent. And so nobody wants to leave themselves open for an audit. So that was really what gave me pause. And finally, I kind of, that was kind of a limiting belief that I had going into it. And how I got over that limiting belief was that I was like, there's got to be a system. Like, if that's my only reason why I'm not doing this, then let's create a system that will kind of keep me, watertight from that type of problem.
It's almost like when you thought about like these hours and like just having them on an Excel sheet, it kind of reminded me of like doctors who are like tracking CME.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't just like, okay, well, I did 100 hours of CME and I wrote it down on this piece of paper. And so you found out that there wasn't any solution to this. And you said, you know what, I'm just going to create it myself. What is the thought process that goes with it?
Yeah. And yeah, that's a great question. And so as you can imagine, it wasn't quite as just easy as, hey, I'm just going to like create it myself. There was some forks in the road, some bumps in the road. And I do have to back up and say that this is not my first app idea. This is not my first kind of venture down the app world. I actually had an app idea, but right before COVID. And it was, just to give you like really quick, it was matching carpools of parents who I would see them at school, then I would see them at soccer, then I would see them at gymnastics. And I was like, okay, I should be able to just create an algorithm where all of these parents have essentially like a GPS tracker, and it matches your carpool and then spits it out. Hey, you need to like talk to Susan over there because she's going to soccer at 3. So anyways, being very naive, I was like, this is going to be easy. I mean, we have Uber, we have all these apps out there that have GPS. It's super easy. So, that very naive thought actually. So I went and I talked to an app developer about that app idea. And I was just like, wow, blown away by the quotes that I was getting for definitely not the idea that I was coming up with for a real scaled down version. It was along the order of like $40,000 of starting bare minimum app. So I knew kind of going into REPStracker that like anything that you have that's like, kind of a grandiose idea, both needs to be scaled down in the beginning, and also it's going to cost a lot of money. So I should say with that last app, I ended up going to a venture capital fund. I kind of went a couple steps further, and then COVID hit. So it was actually a pretty good thing that it didn't go all the way. But so I knew going into REPStracker that there was some issues with hiring software developers. It was hard to kind of translate your idea to somebody who is a software developer. And often it's because it's hard to find software developers that kind of have the same vision as you. And there's a cost versus quality versus money type situation that you get into. And so if you're hiring a developer, let's say in like India, it's going to be really hard to kind of translate this idea that is very Americanized idea to a software developer who really thinks in code and JavaScript. And so it becomes a big hurdle to find somebody like that. And I knew that it was also going to be quite costly off the bat. So, I kind of had this epiphany and said, if all these guys can be software developers, I mean, I went to medical school. Like, it can't be that hard. I've got to just, I can create this app by myself. So then I started watching YouTube videos and like really trying to like school myself on app development, and went down a couple rabbit holes and found actually like this app development, essentially school. So it was like going to med school, but for app development. And they worked on a platform that did not use coding language, just coding logic. So I was able to kind of take the learning JavaScript part of my whole timeline out of the equation, which was great. And then I, took it from there. I enrolled in the school. It's called Coaching No Code Apps. If you ever want to look it up, it's an awesome program. And I just learned this skill set kind of day by day, step by step.
And so what was the timeline from initial, idea to actually deciding to start developing it, start paying money to develop it, to actually then launching it?
Yeah.
And how much time did you devote each week or month to this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started it, so it's March now. So I started it in November, and I had my minimum viable product, my MVP, out by January 15th, I think. So it took it was actually less than 2 months that it took for me to have a minimum viable product that had beta users. After that, I had beta users use it and tried and iterated different versions of it until I was able to get it to a version I felt pretty confident in launching into the app stores.
And what do you think was the biggest challenge in developing REPStracker?
Yeah. So for me personally, the biggest challenge was thinking in coding logic, which I love thinking in coding logic, but having 3 kids at home for most of that was, you kind of go down these like long pathways, or if anybody interrupts you, you have to go back to the beginning. So having my kids home during this, so actually adjusted my schedule. I started waking up at like 2 or 3 in the morning so that I could just have these few hours of uninterrupted time so I could really, really nail down my app. But yeah, I think that, and also I spent a lot of mental energy in the beginning, almost keeping it like secret. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of struggle with this. I've got this great idea, but I can't tell anybody because the people are going to steal my idea. And if I were to go back and do it over again, I don't think I would keep it secret. I think that, what I've realized is that number one, it takes a lot of time and effort to create an app. So, you're not going to like tell Joe Schmo about it and then have them just like create the app right away. It's pretty unlikely that somebody's going to steal your idea. And also when you are really open and honest and excited about something, people will give you ideas that you might not have thought about. And I think it kind of adds to your own excitement and your own momentum. So really, I think with any kind of future endeavors that I do, I'm going to kind of take that and go with it and really just try to be open and gauge other people's ideas on these things.
So a few weeks ago, we had on the program Dr. Daniel Erickson, who also developed an app, and someone that I know you had a chance to talk to, and he had his own ideas about apps and whether a physician should get into apps. What do you recommend as someone who's now been there, done that?
Yeah. And interestingly, since I launched this, I've had a lot of physicians reach out to me asking me how to launch their own apps and bouncing ideas off of me. So definitely those physicians are out there wanting to create their own apps and wanting to go down the entrepreneurial route. I kind of hear the same thing over and over again, like, wow, it's so hard. How could you have done that by yourself? And
Mm.
my response is, oh my goodness, you guys, we all went to medical school. We all, well, in college, I was a total dumbass. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself. And sorry, you have to edit that out of your podcast. But like 5 years later, I was doing central lines, I was intubating premature babies. So, we can do hard things. And medical school is a hard thing. Residency is a hard thing. This is not that hard. This is a skill that you can learn and you can do it. And if you have an idea that you're just going to keep on going back to and being regretful if you didn't do it, just do it. Just do it. It's not that bad.
Awesome. Awesome. So REPStracker is launched. It's launched at the time of this recording. Available on iOS.
Yep. And Google Play now. Yes.
And Google Play.
Yeah.
Very, very, very. And so just to find it, if you're a real estate investor, why should they, to get REPStracker, what can they expect after they download it? Tell us the process. What can they expect to receive?
Yeah, good question. So do you mean talking you through the app, going through the app a little bit? Yeah.
No, for the people who are interested and they want to be real estate professional status, what is the app? What should they expect to receive?
Yeah. So the thing about REPStracker is you can essentially individualize it for your own investing. So a real estate agent would log all of their properties. And then after that, every time entry, the investors will add time entries and tag it onto that particular property that they're talking about, upload as much evidence as they want. So for example, I'm constantly text messaging my real estate agent and also my property managers and stuff. And so, I'll just log like 5 minutes of text and I'll take a screenshot of my text and upload it onto my little description. And it takes me 10 seconds to log that time entry. And so those little things add up, right? So I'm going on my own app like several times a day to log my own entries. And so people can both log their time entries and also attach all of the evidence that they need in case they're ever audited against this by the IRS. They can attach all of that. And then REPStracker also keeps track of how much time you have left until you can reasonably claim real estate professional status. So you don't have to go adding it up or anything by yourself. You just have a cute little screen that will tell you exactly how much time you have left and how much time you've submitted. And then at the end, if you want to just print out a spreadsheet and keep it in a shoebox, you want to go back to the shoebox method, print out a spreadsheet, just export everything into Excel or CSV and keep it for the rest of eternity if you want.
Well, I'm so ecstatic that REPStracker is now live and in the world and all the public can use it. And just to give some transparency, I was honored to join you on this journey to getting this app launched. And I've had a pleasure working with you. So I'm curious, what's next for you, Kirsten?
Okay, yeah, a couple of things. So number one, I'm going to start using my own app and really scaling up my real estate, which I've kind of done concurrently. And there's a lot of other ideas that I can kind of offshoot off of this. So for one, going along my lines of just being totally transparent and open with my ideas, a lot of people are getting really excited about short-term rentals, and short-term rentals has a pretty similar kind of tax structure for material participation. And so starting to kind of build upon these different offshoots of these tax structures and being able to use my app for that. And yeah, and I've had such a great time working with you too, Mike, and it's been awesome.
So where can they go if they want to reach out to you? I don't know if you offer any. You said a lot of physicians asking you about apps or maybe about real estate investing. Are you available to hear from some of these listeners or doctors? Or
yeah. No, absolutely. I'm really happy to talk to people. I think it's so exciting that there's so many people out there that want to share their ideas and want to bounce things off of me. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody who has anything that they want to ask about creating an app, about a REPStracker, about real estate professional status, really anything. So they can go to my website, actually is probably the best way to do it. So REPStracker.com. So REPStracker, REPStracker.com. And there's a little thing that says contact me there, and it goes straight to my email, or else you can email support@REPStracker.com, and that just goes straight to me. So
wonderful. It's been a pleasure working
Thank
with you. And I am so excited again about REPStracker. Any last minute advice or best advice you could give to the listeners out there? Maybe a doctor who wants to start up an app, or maybe someone who's just getting started in real estate investing and is not sure that doesn't really know too much about real estate professional status and is considering it. Any words of advice you have for those folks?
Yeah, dude, you can do hard things. Remember that. Remember, you probably did a really hard thing yesterday in your job. Believe me, you can start real estate investing. You can start making an app. You can do whatever you want. And if you don't have an answer for something, it's out there. So just go find it and just start.
Awesome. Thanks for this. Again, REPStracker, go to REPStracker.com to download an app, save you a lot of time and money as a real estate investor. And again, thank you, Kirsten Limmer, for joining us today. And you're a perfect example of just finding that there's a problem out there, figuring out that there's a solution. If you can't find a solution to it, why not create it yourself? But it's not just about reading about it. It's not about it just going into a direction. If you have something that you believe it can be of value to the world, nothing better to do than just keep moving forward. Hey, Dr. Mike Lumeng with Bootstrap MD. Thanks for listening to the program. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I encourage you to go and please leave and rate or review this podcast to wherever you're listening to it. It really helps me out, and it really helps me spread the benefits of physician entrepreneurship. Really appreciate it, and thanks again for listening.
You've just listened to the Bootstrap MD podcast. For more valuable resources, as well as past recordings of our show, check out our website at bootstrapmd.com. Now, let's get to work.